Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. So, some background. I, 24 female, lost my mom when I was 10. Cancer. It was quick, brutal, and I didn't really understand what was happening until it was over. One day she was home braiding my hair and laughing at my terrible knock-knock jokes, and the next she was a ghost in a hospice bed. I still remember the way her pillow smelled, the way her mug sat on the kitchen counter for weeks afterward, like maybe she'd just walk back in one day and pick it up. After she passed, it was just me and my dad for a long time. We lived in the same house I grew up in, the one my mom and dad bought together. Every corner of that house held memories. My mom had painted the walls in the kitchen herself. This warm, honey yellow color that made it feel like sunshine even in the winter. She picked out the wisteria vines in the garden. Her handwriting was still on the inside of the pantry door, where she once wrote down her lemon pie recipe in permanent marker because she couldn't find paper. It wasn't a mansion, it wasn't fancy, but it was ours, and to me, it was sacred. When I was 16, my dad remarried. I never had a problem with the idea of him finding love again. He was lonely, and grief is a long, quiet kind of suffering that you can't begrudge someone escaping from. My stepmom, Claire, moved in with her son, Josh, who's my age. Josh and I weren't close, but we got along fine. But the house always felt like mine. Like I was sharing it temporarily. Like this was still my mother's home. From the very beginning, I thought it was understood, maybe not spoken, but felt, that the house would come to me one day. Not because I felt entitled, but because it was part of her. It was where I grew up. I moved out when I was 21 after getting a job in a nearby city, but I still visited often. I always slept in my old bedroom when I came home. It still had the same bookshelf, the same posters. I still called it home, even though I had my own place now. Now fast forward to 2 weeks ago. We were all sitting down to dinner, me, my dad, Claire, Josh, and Claire's parents. Everyone was laughing and talking about renovations they wanted to do. And then, out of nowhere, my dad casually says, "Well, I figure once I'm gone, the house will go to Josh." He needs stability more than anyone. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. I looked at him, stunned. "What?" He repeated it, like it was no big deal. "The house. I think it makes sense for it to go to Josh." He's still figuring things out. It'll give him a good foundation. My fork literally stopped mid-air. My heart was pounding in my ears. I said carefully, "Dad, are you saying Josh is inheriting the house?" He gave this half shrug like it was obvious. "You're doing well for yourself, honey. You have your own apartment. You've got a good job. Josh needs this more. You don't." I sat there, completely frozen. I looked around, and everyone else just kept eating. Like this wasn't a gut punch. Like he wasn't casually giving away the last piece of my mom. I asked, "What about Mom?" This was her house too. You two bought it together. She decorated it. She raised me here. And now you're just handing it to someone else. He got defensive. "Claire and I have been married 8 years. This is her home too now. And Josh's family. You're being selfish. That's what he said. I was being selfish. I got up. I couldn't sit there pretending like that moment hadn't shattered something. I walked out of the dining room. I didn't even take my coat. I just left. I sat in my car in the driveway, trying to catch my breath, wondering if this was real. Since then, things have exploded. My dad hasn't reached out. My stepmom texted me saying I embarrassed him in front of her family and that I should apologize for making a scene. She said I disrespected their son and that I was acting entitled, that I should be happy my brother is being set up for a good life. Brother. That word stung. Josh hasn't said anything to me. Not a text, not a call, not even an "Are you okay?" after I stormed out. Maybe he feels awkward. Maybe he doesn't care. But here's the part that really gets me. I never asked for the house outright. I never demanded anything. I never said I wanted more than what's fair. I just thought, truly believed, that something as personal and as sacred as the home where my mom lived, loved, and died would one day pass to me. It wasn't just real estate. It was her. The lemon yellow kitchen, the vines she planted, her handwriting in the pantry, my childhood, her laugh echoing through the walls. My friends say I had every right to be upset. They said they would have flipped the table. But some part of me still wonders, am I the asshole for reacting the way I did? For walking out? For not just keeping the peace? OP is absolutely not the asshole. That house isn't just a piece of property. It's the last living connection to OP's mother. It's where her presence still lingers, where her love is literally written into the walls. For OP's dad to so casually hand it over to someone who wasn't even part of her life, without talking to OP first, without considering what that place means to OP, is a brutal betrayal. OP didn't make a scene. She reacted like any human being would when something sacred is ripped away. OP's father didn't just give away a house. He erased OP's mother from it and expected OP to smile while he did. And now let's hear community's opinion. What stuns me is that your dad not only blindsided you with that announcement, but also called you selfish for being hurt. That's gaslighting, plain and simple. You didn't ask for money. You didn't demand anything. You assumed, reasonably, that your family home, the one tied to your mother's memory, would be passed on to you, her child. Instead, he's giving it to a stepson because it's more convenient. You're not jealous. You're grieving, again. And you have every right to feel betrayed. The people around you may not understand what that house meant. But I do. And I'm so sorry you're going through this. Not the a-hole. It's wild how parents sometimes think that fairness means punishing the child who's doing okay. Just because you're stable, independent, and have your life together doesn't mean your connection to your mother or her home means less. In fact, it probably means more. Because you remember her in that space. You grew up there. You grieved her there. That house is not your stepbrother's to inherit just because he needs it more. He didn't share those memories, and your father clearly doesn't understand how deeply this decision cuts. Honestly, you handled it better than most would have. You had every right to walk out. I think what hurts most is that your dad didn't even consider what the house meant to you. He didn't ask. He didn't talk. He just announced it, like you were a guest in your own story. And the fact that your stepmom is more upset about her dinner being ruined than about the emotional bomb your father dropped tells you exactly where their priorities are. You are not selfish. You are grieving, again. And honestly, if your dad doesn't make this right, you're going to have to decide how much space you want these people to occupy in your future. You're not wrong for standing up for your mother's memory. You're brave for it.
Okay, so I, 38 female, was recently diagnosed with a severe heart disease, and I probably won't live much longer than a few weeks at this point. I'm leaving most of my things to my daughter, 22 female, and my wife, 39 male. But I am leaving some things to my sister, who I am very close to, and her newborn baby boys, as I feel like they should know they had an aunt who loved them. My father and mother had gotten a divorce after she found out about his infidelity. He had a son with the woman, and his son is my half-brother, 30 male. I had no communication with my half-brother until a few days ago. He contacted me saying how he wanted me to meet my niece, 9 female, before I go. I never wanted any communication with my half-brother because I just couldn't take it, but I thought that I might as well meet my niece. I met her and she seems like a sweet girl. I have no problem with her. I do have a problem with my brother though, because as soon as he found out what I was leaving to my sister, he demanded I include him and his daughter in my will. I don't want to give them too much, as I just finished dividing everything up between everyone else. I told him I was willing to give her some of my jewelry, but he demanded I give him more than that. I'm honestly conflicted on this, because my niece seems sweet enough, and my half-brother was nice until now. My half-brother side of the family has been giving me crap about it since yesterday, and I just don't know if I'm being unreasonable here. Not the a-hole. There was no relationship there to warrant consideration in OP's will, and even if there was, OP is still allowed to decide as they see best. This was obviously a disgusting money grab by brother. Block him, and anyone else not offering support, and have a representative make sure them getting nothing is ironclad. What shameless vultures. Not the a-hole. Your half-brother is the biggest a-hole of them all. Whatever you do, do not leave anything to your half-brother. He's a selfish, entitled a-hole who clearly only cares about getting as much out of you as he can. If you want to do something for your half-niece, do not trust him to give anything to her. There are legal ways to ensure she only receives something after she's a legal adult. If you leave anything to her, that's how you should handle it. Or ask your wife or siblings to hold on to some jewelry, like you mentioned, to give her when she's older. Not the a-hole. It sounds like your brother showed up and brought your niece to be able to stake a claim in your will, not because he actually wanted you to meet her. I would talk to a lawyer, because I think people can challenge a will, saying that they were left out and deserve something. Edit. Hello, everyone. I've decided to take your advice and talk with a lawyer about this situation soon. I will be leaving half-brother $1 and a video explaining why. I contacted my niece's mom, who is divorced from my half-brother, asking if she would let her come over and pick out a piece of jewelry that she would get when she turns 18. I'm most likely going to block the rest of my half-brother's family and spend my last few weeks with my sisters, nephews, wife, and daughter. I don't like my brother-in-law. He's not the poster child for toxic masculinity, but he's definitely not the child's lackey. Then just add on his arrogance, superiority complex, and massive holier-than-thou attitude. He'll commonly quote scripture to prove his point. This charming individual and his wife recently had their third child. The delivery ended up an emergency C-section, which usually means you're stuck in the hospital for 4 to 5 days. The plan was for my in-laws to watch my brother-in-law's kids, but the weekend before, they took care of another of my wife's brothers who was sick with virus. He's 24, but still the family baby. As a result, my in-laws were quarantining. My brother-in-law was livid about this. It was such an inconvenience that the in-laws couldn't take his kids for the week he was home on paternal leave. Even now, 2 weeks later, he still refuses to talk to them because of how inconsiderate they were. Anyway, last Thursday, my brother-in-law asked my wife to watch his kids for the afternoon. I wasn't a big fan of the idea. Surprise, surprise. But at the same time, my wife makes her own decisions, and it's family, so I get it. So my wife drove the 3-hour round trip and spent the afternoon there. My brother-in-law didn't offer compensation or to pay for the gas, and we didn't ask for anything. I didn't think anything of it until tonight when my brother-in-law demanded my wife pay $200 in damage to their car. Here's what happened. After my wife arrived, my brother-in-law took our car and left his because he didn't want to move the child seats. My wife would drop the kids off at the hospital when it was time for her to drive home. My brother-in-law then went to the hospital where the plan was to watch the World Cup. Yes, that's correct. They urgently needed a babysitter so they wouldn't be bothered watching soccer. When my wife left, she realized the way out of the complex is narrow, and the car, a giant minivan. My wife inched her way out, but scraped the front left bumper on a fence and took some of the paint off. I need to stress that the damage was superficial, but when my brother-in-law saw it, he went on a tirade. Stupid women drivers. You see, this is why women shouldn't be allowed to drive, etc. Understandably taken aback, my wife said she'd pay for it. But due to my dislike of my brother-in-law, my wife hadn't told me this part of the story until he texted her the cost of repair. I'm not one to put my foot down, but in this case, I told my wife that there's no way we're paying to repaint that bumper. If it was a stranger, we'd compensate, no question. But I'm hard-pressed to imagine a situation where one of my siblings drives 3 hours to watch my children for an afternoon of arbitrary reasons, and then I demand they pay $200 to fix my car's paint, which they were only driving because I was too lazy to move car seats around. Throw in his misogynistic diatribe for good measure. So, what do you think? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I would hand over a bill for mileage, hourly rate, including travel and an inconvenience fee for not using her own car, and finally, a car rental fee for using her car. Then, he would get and by the way, don't call us, we'll call you. Everyone sucks here. Yes, you should pay for the damaged car, but make sure you send an itemized receipt for the gas, hourly sitter fee, child transport fee, as well as a reminder that a woman driver wouldn't be on the road if he could take care of his own kids. You have to pay for the damage. I'd be tempted to invoice him $25 an hour, including transportation for non-emergency babysitting, and say, with 3 hours of travel, plus 6 hours of babysitting, or whatever, you owe us $225. $225 minus $200 equals $25 for the car damages. But your wife really is the one who needs to establish how she wants to move forward. But I tell her that his attitude makes you very uncomfortable. Don't tell her what to do with this, because it is her family. But maybe discuss setting boundaries with him. I wouldn't want him around my kids. Here's the full story. I, male 27, lost my wife, female 26, just a few weeks ago. We have a daughter, female 7, named Ella. I was always a stay-at-home dad who homeschooled Ella while my wife was at work. We already didn't make a whole lot of money and struggled financially a lot. Long story short, we had to move out and find a temporary place to stay while I try to find a job. None of my family lives in town, and the closest family we have here is my wife's younger sister, Cassie, female 24, who shares a place with her girlfriend, Allie, female 23. They graciously opened their home to me and my daughter when they first heard the news of my wife's passing, and we've been staying with them for a while. We plan to move as soon as I land a job and am financially stable enough to get a place for me and my daughter. Anyways, right off the bat, I realized a problem. Both Cassie and Allie work from home, and since I'm still homeschooling Ella, all four of us are in the house all day. Apparently, Cassie and Allie's dress code is a lot more lax than what's appropriate or suitable for a 7-year-old to see. Oftentimes in nothing but their underwear. The first few times I gave a quick glance as to say, "Really?" in front of Ella. But if they're not going out for the day, it seems like this is their normal attire. Ella seems a bit uncomfortable around them whenever they're dressed like that, and I feel bad for her. I also quickly noticed a problem with the walls in the house. They are super thin, and Cassie and Allie can be quite loud at night. Since their room and the spare room are close together, they've woken up Ella a few times now during the night. Last night, the same thing happened, and Ella asked me what was going on, and I wasn't sure what to say. I just told her to go back to bed. I finally brought it up with Cassie this morning. I told her that the way they dress and how loud they can be at night are inappropriate for Ella. I offered to set up an arrangement where I go out and take Ella for a walk, or just something out of the house when they want to have their fun time, and that if they could dress a bit more normally for the short time we'll be staying here. She just looked at me in shock and called me an ungrateful a-hole. I told Cassie that I'm pulling my weight around the house, and I think it's fair that this is my one and only request, merely for the sake of my daughter. She just snapped at me and said it's her house, and she's allowed to dress and do whatever the duck she wants, and that if I have a problem with it, we can leave. We've always been on good terms before, but now both Cassie and Allie have been snappy with me all day. So am I the ungrateful a-hole? I don't want to get kicked out, but I don't want to raise my daughter in this environment, even if it's for a short while. You're the a-hole. They already gave you a place to stay in their home for free. You can't expect them to change the way they live their lives for you too. Walking around in your underwear at home isn't inappropriate. It's entirely normal for people to wear casual and minimal clothes in their own homes. It's a bit weird that you're incapable of viewing that as anything but somehow sexual. And them having S might be inconvenient to you, but again, you can't expect them to change their whole lifestyle for you. At the end of the day, it's their home, and they should be allowed to be comfortable in it. I mean, honestly, I can see how Cassie might feel you're biting the hand that feeds you, so to speak. I don't think you're wrong to have asked, and that looking out for your daughter as your top priority is a good thing. And I think Cassie's reaction was over the top. But she does have a point. It's her house, and right now, you're there on her charity. I don't think I have a good solution other than for you to get out as quickly as possible. If you feel strongly enough, then pack up and leave town to stay with your other relatives. No a-holes. You're the a-hole. I'm surprised that they're comfortable around you in their underwear, but it's their home, and there's nothing wrong with your daughter seeing an adult woman's body. Mentioning that she woke up and asked questions about the noise could have opened the door to figure something out, like trying to keep the noise down or putting on music. But you made this about their inappropriate behavior instead of the thin walls. It's their home, and if you aren't comfortable with their lifestyle, you can find someplace else to stay because they don't owe you any kind of compromise when they're giving you a free place to live. I, female 17, have an older sister, female 22. My parents had her when they were teenagers, and they have never been good to her. They are good to me. They both screamed at her for everything, and they both pressured her a lot. She was, a model, so Mom was obsessed with her looks and what she ate. Dad constantly pressured her with school. I was not good either. I was always ruining her stuff, even expensive ones. I would scream at her. I made fun of everything she liked. My parents encouraged it. My sister was always good to me. She would make sure I eat healthy and help with homework, even when she was sick or tired. She'd stay with me when Mom and Dad had fights, as I would get scared. She took the blame for everything I did, always. But it was hard, and the relationship with my parents got really bad after they blamed her for something awful. So she left a while later when she became an adult. Things weren't okay between us either, but she told me to contact her if necessary. She is now very successful, travels a lot, has money, a nice boyfriend, friends and fans. She had always wanted a sister, and I know she had asked for one for Christmas and for her birthday before I was born. Whenever she saw sisters on movies or stuff, she would say it was us. I constantly told her that she wasn't my sister. Well, our parents had a baby recently, a girl. They had couples therapy the past years and are okay now. I spent months thinking, but I decided to contact her, apologize, and tell her everything. She was furious. Literally, for the first time ever, she screamed at me and said lots of real mean stuff, then said I should not have told her anything. I'm confused. We sucked, I know that. But was I really bad in contacting her for this? I feel like it was important. You're the a-hole. No contact means just that. She said you could contact her only if you needed something. There was no reason to break her boundaries by telling her things about the people she went no contact with. Not the a-hole, because as a kid, especially if you were encouraged by your parents, you follow an example. I think you did the right thing, but you have to understand her side, and I think you do. That's why you were asking this. If you honestly regret the way you treated her, not the a-hole, but you would be the a-hole if you contacted her because she is successful now. This might sound bad, but she always made good money and was popular, and I was still bad towards her, so her being more successful now doesn't change much. I doubt we can rebuild our relationship, so that wasn't the reason truly. Did you contact her with the sole purpose of telling her she now has a sister? You said she always wanted one before you were born, but then you were born and brought up to scream at her, push her around, and tell her over and over that you are not sisters. This is not your fault, but your parents'. So she probably doesn't want one now. What was your intention with telling her this? I know she probably does not want to rebuild the relationship, and it's okay. But I thought she should know that there's somehow another chance, if that makes sense. She has a new baby sister, and mom and dad are okay. If she ever wishes to come back, she can start all over again. Now that I say it, it doesn't sound well. So, I've done some crappy stuff here. I know I was the a-hole, but I need to know if the potential plan I have is also crappy behavior. So I met X when he was 22 and I was 33. Looking back, I can see our relationship was awful and a total mess. He'd never dated. I liked him a lot more than he liked me. It was off and on, extremely little intimacy. Can count it on one hand. And we hung out maybe once every 2 weeks on a good month. I also spent about a year of that time constantly trying to strong-arm him into a kid. It came to a head when my periods started to get irregular. My mom had menopause at 34, and I freaked out that it was over for me. He told me he didn't want kids. I sort of lost it, said he'd wasted years of my life and I would never be a mom. It didn't get brought up again, but I mentioned that I'd stopped taking birth control. He was uncomfortable and said he was worried, but I kinda just shushed him. We had S one more time after that, and I got pregnant. The relationship, unsurprisingly, got significantly worse. He broke up with me when I was 3 months gone, but said he'd do absolutely everything for the kid and any kid-related stuff I needed and child support. 5 months later, he's in a new relationship and an entirely different person. He spent years telling me he doesn't ever feel romantic love for people and hates touching people and would never move in with someone as he needs his own space. And he's like ducking Romeo to this girl. I text him and ask like, what the duck? Did you lie to me for years? And he basically tells me, yeah, he just didn't find me attractive and our relationship sucks. And he's never felt like this about anyone before. So, great. I block him on everything, freak out, tell him I want 0 shared custody. I just want him to duck off with this girl, and I'll have my own life. 2.5 years later, and I hear from his brother's ex-wife that they're expecting a baby. I duck myself up and unblock them and stalk everything. He's still just as devoted. They're married, and he's making comments about becoming a father, and how his family is his everything. It seems really genuine. I also find out she hasn't blocked me, but he has. Now, seeing as he now wants to be a dad, do I contact his wife and say, hey, like, he has this kid. This kid could see his dad too. I know it's on me that they have no contact, but it's been a while and I want my kid to have a dad. Note, his wife knows about the kid. They send good money and birthday cards and Christmas presents from both of them. You're the a-hole. You coerced this man into having a child with you out of fear of infertility. He does his part by providing financial support. You took advantage of a young man in a completely different life stage than you, and you truly expect him to pick up slack when he didn't even want the baby you trapped him into having. No doubt you have your own issues to sort out, and that this child will eventually want to know about and possibly one day be involved with their father. But you made your bed, now lie in it. Deal with the natural consequences of your crappy behavior and be the single mom you desperately wanted to be. The wife knows, he knows. They aren't trying to see the child. I'd say it's very clear they don't want to be involved on the level you want them to be. And if I were him or his wife, I'd assume you only want to step back into his life out of resentment, fear, abandonment, and selfishness, not out of true concern for your child. Sorry, dude. You're the a-hole. You forced someone who literally told you they didn't want a kid to have a kid. Then you wanted him to have no contact with your kid, even if that person actually sends money and stuff. And now you just want to keep being the a-hole and stirring. For what purpose exactly? People change, and people can change when they meet other people. I don't get how you are surprised when you actually said your relationship was terrible. Also, for the sake of your child, the one you wanted so much, you cannot be pushing and withdrawing contact with the father whenever you feel like it. It looks like you are dealing with obsession. You need to get some professional help. This is not normal. You're the a-hole, except that you ducked up and stopped making it worse. As someone in your age range, you're too old to be acting like this.